Hello dear learners, I am back with my fifth lecture of my ninth module. So my fifth lecture, I'll talk about the interplay of caste and gender. In my previous four lectures, I have tried to give you an idea, right, of how it's the women, they are a part of folklore, how the other customs and practices we have. And in this, I'll be telling you about how caste and gender, along with class, is assimilated in folklore. Now, we will start the lecture, and first I'll be talking about the class and caste and gender, and then I will be specifying you region wise. The link between caste, class and gender had a significant impact on the development, transmission and content of Indian folklore. Caste hierarchies in India determine that who could take part in what. Okay, so it showed that if you are of a higher hierarchy, you can take part in certain rituals. If you are of a different hierarchy, maybe lower than the higher one, then you can take part in another ritual, right? So the caste based and the class based distinctions are always there. In my first lecture, I did discuss about it. If you remember, about the lower class, about the higher class, about the middle class and how they are utilizing folk culture. Some are kind of living it and some making their livelihood out of it. Okay? So now I'll be detailing you about that how these hierarchies of class, caste and gender affects the folklore in India. Caste hierarchies frequently determine who could tell stories, what stories were told, and how they were told. Upper caste versions of folklore frequently featured divine or heroic individuals like monarchs, gods, and warriors who represented principles of dharma and order. Lower caste and Dalit folklore frequently generated counter narratives that challenged dominant myths. For example, Dalit retellings of the Ramayana or Mahabharata may portray Ravana or Duryodhana more sympathetically, indicating resistance to Brahminical persecution. Here I'll give you an example, okay. Like for example, in Ramayana, we see that that Ram is the foremost person, he is the most important person, and normally if literally we read the Ramayana, we see that that Ravan is actually kind of treated as an antagonist, as we see, right, as we are taught the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Interestingly, there is a you can say a tribe in in Jharkhand actually, who are the followers, who are the descendants of Ravan. So when we you can say celebrate the Dashera or the Navratri, we are celebrating Lord Rama, but they kind of lament the death of Ravana. The Asur community we have, they are said to be the descendants of Lord Ravana. So you can say that one hand we are celebrating, we can say, the good over the evil by depicting the win of Ram over Ravan. On the other hand, they are lamenting the death of Ravan, okay, means a death of a closed one who was killed by Ram. Clear? So this is how you can say that communities and their narratives are different from each other. Working class and rural populations created folklore based on their everyday difficulties, labor and aspiration. Folk tales and songs became vehicles for unity, education and resistance, particularly among marginalized groups, because economic class and caste frequently intermingled. Oppressed societies' folklore highlights exploitation, injustice and communal strength. If you remember, I said that sometimes folk songs are also, folk theatre, folk dances are also a part of resistance. They are also, you can say, vehicles of resistance. Women, on the other hand, were frequently portrayed through patriarchal glasses, either idealized as loyal wives or demonized for deviating from the norm. We have the example of Surpanakha actually, or Putana. Women's oral traditions, particularly in folk songs and tales, frequently contain resistance, sadness, and optimism, giving them a platform to convey their actual experiences and feelings. The crossings produced distinct subcultures of folklore. A Dalit woman's story is defined by her marginalization as both a woman and a Dalit. Lower class tribal mythology may emphasize female characters or local deities over mainstream Hindu gods. Folk traditions occasionally showed for subversive or alternative viewpoints, undermining dominant power structures by repositioning the marginalized. We have the folk tales of Birsa Munda, we have the folk songs from Rajasthan, Bengal, and we also have the Dalit oral epics like the Dalit Veer Yatra, which interpret history through a non-Brahmanical prism. Now, I come to the instances from Northeast India. The connection between caste, class and gender in Northeast India had a profound impact on its folk culture, which is noted for its diverse ethnic groups, dialects and traditions. Because of its tribal, you can say mostly tribal communities, it is very diverse. Somewhere the distinction between the class and caste has become very, you can say, minimum actually. Like people kind of take part in the Kshatriya dance, people take part in the Majuli mask making, wearing the Majuli mask, and also the other forms. We have the Bihu, we have the other dance forms, song forms. So somewhere people from all the classes and all the caste and also from different genders take part in these performances, making it very spectacular and making it very inclusive. In contrast to much of India's severe caste system, the northeastern states are, as I said, predominantly tribal, and caste dynamics do persist in locations with considerable Hindu population such as Assam and parts of Manipur. In Assam, Brahmins have traditionally performed religious rites and written folk devotional songs like Nam Kirtan. And we have the Vaishnavite movement founded by Srimad Shankardev, which opposed caste hierarchies by fostering egalitarian spiritual activities like Bhavana and, as I said, Kshatriya dance. In Manipur, Meitei Hindus follow caste-like structures, and their folk traditions such as Ras Leela are firmly ingrained in religious and caste-related acts. Class shapes access to cultural creation and performance. Folk traditions frequently arise from working class or rural communities, reflecting their perspectives, challenges and celebrations. While elites frequently supported classical arts, folk culture remained embedded in the lives of ordinary people. Assam's Bihu, as I said, it's a peasant celebration. It began as a peasant celebration of the agricultural cycle, but now they are being performed by everyone. Also, the Karbi community of Assam conducts Chomkhan, a death ceremony comprising storytelling and drama that is frequently organized by poorer, non-elite families to ensure the deceased's peaceful departure to the afterlife. Now, I will be talking about the examples from East India. And the examples from East India, here if you see, I have attached a photo of a very famous dance, okay, though it is very controversial, the Londa Nach, right, and that is what I have attached a photo here. It is prevalently there in Bihar, where men dress up as women for entertaining the mass, right, and they get paid for that, okay. So you can say a livelihood for some, though it is not considered respectable in the society, but still people are making a living out of it. The male, you can say, performers who are portraying themselves as female, and also there are agencies nowadays, they are kind of promoting these dances, and also they are hiring these male performers for the Londa Nach. Folk performances in eastern India frequently reflect rural communities, socio-economic hierarchy and caste differences. And as I have said just about the Londa Nach, in this performance art style, young men dress up as ladies. And what they do? They act out stories that frequently criticize the socio-economic inequalities suffered by lower caste. The term Londa means a young boy, and it has been used despairingly to describe effeminacy. Despite its stigma, Londa Nach has provided a platform for marginalized voices to denounce caste-based discrimination. We have the Ghasi caste, who have traditionally cared for horses and village musicians, and is involved with performing arts such as Nachni and the Chhau. These performances frequently incorporate animistic beliefs with Hindu ceremonies, demonstrating the community's cultural resilience and adaptation. The traditional art forms are patronized and commercialized, demonstrating the interaction between class and folk culture. I will give you another example of the Nachni performers. The Nachni dance is extremely prevalent in the western parts of West Bengal, mostly in Purulia we say. So, we have the Nachni dancers there. And who are the Nachni dancers? They are young women, or sometimes old women also, not very old, young or middle aged women who perform for entertaining the masses. And the Nachni dancers, they wear like dresses, not we can say very elaborate, but simple dresses, and they have a roshik actually. Who is the roshik? Who kind of is the patronizer for the Nachni dancer. So, one Nachni dancer will obviously have a roshik, okay, who is patronizing her, providing her with performances to perform and earn from it, and also providing her with basic necessities of life. Sometimes she is treated as a family member of the roshik, but unfortunately when the Nachni dies, she doesn't get the respect of the family member from the family of the roshik. She is just a performer for the society who has an unfortunate, you can say, death sometimes, and they do not get a proper burial for themselves. They are just entertainers for the society, and that is the harsh reality we have of the Nachni dancers. Their performances have become commodified over time, with some dancers developing informal alliances with higher caste male managers, illustrating the intricate interplay between class and caste in the cultural sphere. Gender roles in folk traditions often reflect societal standards, but they also present opportunities for resistance and empowerment. We have a very important writer called Kalyani Thakur Charal, who is a Dalit writer, a Dalit women writer in Bengal, who writes about how Dalit women faces, ultimate stigma and faces gender-based, class-based and caste-based discrimination from the society and also within the hierarchy of the Dalit community. So, we can say they are thrice, you can say, subjugated or oppressed, and she beautifully portrays it in her poems. The vivid dance form performed by young ladies from tribal villages honors youth, nature and community. So, we have the Dakhai dance, the Dalkhai dance in Orissa. While it follows traditional gender roles, it allows women to show their joy and resilience. We have the Chauhar Mal, who is a folk hero in Bihar in the Dusad community. And what does his story say? His story says about how the lower caste defied the upper caste, their norms, and how they struggled to make a place within the higher class people. Mainly we can say, opposing hierarchy. Folk traditions have played an important role in resisting cultural hegemony and establishing the identities of marginalized communities. Through performances, myths, and rituals, these communities have preserved their past while challenging dominant narratives. In addition to providing amusement, these performances have allowed lower castes to express their concerns and criticize societal injustices, frequently utilizing satire and humor to address important topics. The folk cultures of eastern India are more than just creative expressions. They are living testaments to the region's complicated social fabric. The traditions highlight the marginalized population under the lens of caste, class, and gender. Understanding this interrelationship broadens our appreciation for Eastern India's cultural history and emphasizes the importance of folk art in societal transformation. Next, I come to the instances from the South India. South India's folk culture, is also a very beautiful fabric, we can say, and it is also formed from the hierarchies which are there. As I have mentioned, as it is in Northeast India, in East India, similar is in the South India. But in South India, the Dalit communities, the Parayar and the others, they have gained major momentum, from the historical perspective and also from the societal perspective. It's not, that they were, you can say, like subjugated throughout history, but at certain point of history, they are subjugated, they are oppressed, but then they have awakened up and they have made their own place. The social constructions had a major impact on the region's cultural manifestations, rituals, and performance traditions in South India. And we have numerous examples how these processes have shaped southern India's folk culture. Battakola is a shamanistic dance drama performed as part of the Bhutaradhane ceremony, which worships indigenous deities in Karnataka's Tulunaru region and northern Kerala. The performers, were generally from lower caste like the Pambara, Parava or Nalike groups, descend into a trance to channel the deity's soul. This practice emphasizes the caste-based division of labor and spiritual functions, in which marginalized communities are entrusted with sacred duties that reflect both their social status and spiritual significance. We have the Kumbakonam Balamani, a pioneering Tamil theatre actress and businesswoman in early 20th century India, represents the junction of class and gender in folk culture. Born into the Kavarai caste and trained as a Devadasi, she defied conventional expectations by directing the Balamani Drama Company, an all-female drama ensemble. Her performances frequently featured gender-bending roles and addressed societal themes, questioning both class hierarchy and gender standards in a conservative country. In Andhra Pradesh too, every caste has their own Kula Puran, that is the caste story, which describes the caste origin and establishment. These tales reinforce the caste's social rank and pride. Performers from specific castes such as the Bandlar or Asaris are tasked with narrating these myths during annual rites, and they emphasize the interconnectedness between caste identity and traditional performances. We have the Dolu Kunitha, which is a strenuous drum dance performed by males of the Kurubagowda caste in Karnataka. We also have, a very famous 15th century saint and composer called Purandar Das, who utilized devotional songs to oppose caste and gender discrimination. What did he write in his songs? He wrote the same thing, how the caste hierarchies were actually oppressing the lower class people and how they had always had to fight, to kind of not topple actually, to make their place, to carve a place amongst the high class people. We have a very prominent movie, if you remember, right? It was just released, like a year back or something, called Jai Bhim, right? Which actually showed how people from the lower class had to fight every day for getting some, acknowledgement, for getting some justice, and for getting what they deserve. These examples show how India's folk culture is deeply woven in the social fabric, reflecting and occasionally challenging conventional caste, class, and gender conventions. These interrelationships have created a dynamic cultural landscape that is still evolving through performance traditions, rituals, and literature. Next, I am going to talk about the examples or the instances from Western India. In Western India, in Gujarat, in my last lecture, I discussed about how Garba is essentially, a women-centric dance, which has actually become a festival right now. Similarly, there are other performances called the Bhavai or the Vavai they say in Gujarat, also has become an encompassing festival, an inclusive one, breaking the barriers of caste, class, and gender, and people everywhere are celebrating it. It represents the junction, as I said, of caste, class, and gender. It was formed in the 4th century by Asaita Thakur, a Brahmin priest who was expelled for dining with the lower caste women in order to protect her from a Muslim subedar. This act of rebellion resulted in his excommunication, and he turned to the performing arts to support himself. Bhabai performances frequently satirize the upper caste and highlight social inequities, utilizing humor and music to question society's standards. Tamasha is a prominent folk entertainment form in Maharashtra that was traditionally performed by Dalit women from the Mahar and the Kolhati group. Historically, these women were marginalized and their performances were frequently interpreted as a form of rebellion to the dominant caste norms. With Ambedkar's conversion to Buddhism in 1956, Tamasha performers began to incorporate themes of social justice, equality, and Buddha and Ambedkar teachings into their shows. Lavani, another Maharashtra-based traditional dance genre distinguished by its powerful rhythm, is a version which rose to prominence in the 19th century thanks to the efforts of Bhikari Thakur. The performances frequently feature men mimicking women, emphasizing the fluidity of gender roles in folk culture. It has also served as a platform for marginalized populations to voice their challenges and strength, with narratives that highlight the junction of caste, class, and gender. The Komarpant community in Goa contributes to the region's traditional culture through a variety of art forms, including Fugri, Dhalo, and Jagor. Fugri and Dhalo are circle dances performed largely by women at festivals with a focus on communal engagement and femininity. Jagor is a nocturnal folk theatre which mixes the narratives of the local legends and also the social concerns, reflecting the community's ideals and systems. These art forms demonstrate gender's involvement in generating cultural expression, as well as how caste and class influence participation and portrayal in folk tradition. Dalit women in Maharashtra have used local art forms such as the Bhim Palan songs to proclaim their identity and combat caste oppression. These performances frequently address issues of empowerment, the rejection of Brahminical patriarchy, and the Dalit women have made them potent vehicle for social change by incorporating narratives of resistance and resilience. The folk traditions of Western India demonstrate the complicated interplay of caste, class, and gender. If you know the history, right? So the Black Panther movement, okay, and you can say mostly the Dalit movement started in Maharashtra, and the most prominent Dalit authors we have in India is from Maharashtra. With Assam, I'll name a few like Sharan Kumar Limbale. Okay, and we have the other authors, very Baburao Bagul, who have formed the literature and the history of Maharashtra. They were all, belonging to the Dalit community. And now they have reclaimed their spaces. A very prominent Dalit author we have now, who has written on the culinary traditions of the Dalits of Maharashtra, is Shahu Patole, who has given us a vibrant journey of how the Dalits used to cook and how their food transpires everything. Next, I am going to talk about the instances from Central India. So, the Central Indian folk traditions are intricately linked to societal systems, and these interrelationships have influenced a variety of art forms, rituals, and performances. For example, in the Bhil community, we have the Ghumar dance, which is very celebratory, and we also have it's as a rite actually. Now you see, interestingly, the Ghumar dance is in many places, right? It's more prominent in Rajasthan, and we see in the movies actually of the cinema, the mainstream cinema, that women are performing Ghumar dances, wearing beautiful dresses, right? And you can say it's very actually aesthetically it's charming, but it actually originated from the folk culture. But now it is included and revolves around all the cultures. It has actually become a symbol, of you can say identity for the Rajasthani art performances. Similarly, the Nachni performers, while considered misfits, disrupt traditional gender standards by representing female deities and partaking in behaviors usually reserved for men. The play which happened, Ghurva Chamar, highlights Dalits' fights against caste prejudice. The satirical and humorous performances demonstrate marginalized population strength and resistance to societal injustices. Communities such as the Dhanuks have used folklore to affirm their identities and oppose caste hierarchies. By associating with historical individuals such as Panna Dhai, they recover narratives that honor their past and valor, instilling pride and solidarity in the society. So, we can say that the Bhil community has worshipped a variety of deities, and they have a syncretic mix of animism and Hinduism. Marginalized communities have generated rich cultural manifestations through dance, narrative, and religious rituals that reflect their social reality while also serving as acts of resistance and identity assertion. These traditions continue to evolve, adjusting to new difficulties while retaining the essence of their cultural history. Now, I will come to the instances from North India. In North India also, we have prominent dance forms which have originated from the folk culture. In Uttar Pradesh, we have the dance forms, there are many actually. So, some of them have been a part of the performances along with song and theatre. That is how the class, caste and gender is broken. In rural North India, folk songs sung by women from lower caste frequently question dominant myths of masculinity and caste superiority. They promote actually lower caste men's virility while challenging traditional upper caste manhood stereotypes. By doing so, they not only criticize the caste system but also express women's autonomy and sexual agency, breaking both gender and caste barriers. North India's folk culture is a dynamic interplay of caste, class and gender with marginalized populations using art forms to challenge conventional norms, establish their identities and oppose oppression. The traditions grow over time, reflecting the community's continual struggles and perseverance in the face of established societal structures. Now, we come to the end of our fifth lecture in my ninth module. And here I have tried to break the barrier between the interplay of caste, class and gender in the folk performances and how they have been inclusive and have formed a part of the culture of India. Thank you.